Hi, my name is Ashley and I'm a mom of 2 little girls. I have a 3-year-old named Kylie and I also have a 15-month-old named Mia. Although Montessori has been around for well over 100 years now, it is only just now starting to really come into the mainstream light, and more people are hearing about it, which is probably why you're here watching this video today. And because implementing Montessori practices at home is not necessarily the most mainstream method of parenting out there, a lot of times it's just one parent of a child who first discovers Montessori and falls in love with it. And immediately they set out to figure out, how can I get my spouse on board? Or how can I get my child's grandparents on board, especially if they play a very big role in that child's life? And still other families find themselves in a situation where they are fully on board with doing Montessori at home, but their child is under the care of another person, a nanny or some other caregiver, for a large chunk of the time throughout each day. And so they're left wondering, well, how do I get this person on board too? And finally, one other major question that many families who are new to Montessori encounter pretty quickly is, how do I handle receiving gifts for my child that are perhaps not aligned with Montessori values? So from one busy parent to another, today I'm going to be sharing with you some advice for how to handle family, friends, and gifting in your Montessori home. All right, so you yourself are already sold on the idea of doing Montessori at home with your child, and now you're wondering, how do I get everyone else on board? Your primary goal in this area should be to try to help those people who are important in your child's life to understand the choices that you're making for your child as their parent. The first and most powerful way to do this is to model it yourself. For many people, seeing is believing. So if they see you doing something a certain way with your child, it might spark their curiosity enough to say, hey, why did you do it that way? And when that question is asked, that then opens the lines of communication for you to engage them in open conversations about Montessori and why you're doing the things that you're doing with your child. Oftentimes, people are resistant to something that they perceive as different or new because they don't know enough about it yet. So if you can make it your secret goal to help educate them a little bit more by sending them articles or videos like these ones, or even books if they're open to reading an entire book on the topic and they're interested enough, if you can give them this information and help them to learn more about Montessori, you're going to find that they are a lot more open-minded and hopefully even more enthusiastic about it. Now, if this person is a family member or a nanny or a caregiver who spends a lot of one-on-one time with your child each day, and they regularly see you implementing Montessori practices, but yet they don't really ever seem to ask about it, it is important to sit down with this person and have an open, honest conversation with them where you're able to offer them information, some of those articles or videos or books, and help them learn without being too pushy about it. Now, sometimes even after having had these conversations, you might find that the person is not really willing to make any changes in the way that they're interacting with your child, or maybe they just don't care enough to make any changes because they parented differently and they don't see anything wrong with the way that they're doing it. You might even find that they just outright disagree with your method of parenting and Montessori philosophies in general, and they feel that their way is more effective. Or potentially this person is someone that your child sees only very occasionally, and they don't really spend a lot of one-on-one time with them. And in any of these situations, yes, it can be incredibly frustrating as a parent. But here's what you need to do if you find yourself in this position. Let it go. Having to sit on your hands and bite your tongue as you watch somebody interact with your child in a way that almost makes you want to cringe based on what you know about child development and Montessori practices. Yes, that can be an incredibly difficult experience to endure. But here's the bottom line. You cannot control the behavior of other people. So to even try to go there is just going to add more stress to your plate. So here are some things that I want you to remember at all times in order to help quiet your mind during some of these moments. The first thing is that this person likely cares for your child very much, which means they only have the best of intentions, and they are most likely not trying to undermine your decisions on purpose. Next, rest assured that your dynamics with your child are going to be the most powerful influence in your child's life. You are the parent, and therefore you are going to have the greatest impact. Also, kids are very adaptable and resilient, so they're very easily able to learn different rules with different people and in different places. So for example, how things are with grandma versus how they are with you. This is especially true for infants and toddlers, but as your child hits the preschool years and beyond, they may naturally begin asking more questions. So just be prepared to have an open and honest conversation with your child about the fact that it's a certain way at grandma's and it's a different way at home, and that's just how it is. And I say this because a lot of parents express concern that if they send their child to the grandparents' house for the weekend and they're completely spoiled while they're there and all of the rules and routines go out the window, that it's going to ruin it for them basically when they get back home. And that really isn't something that you should be concerned about, again, because kids are resilient and they are able to adapt to different situations. This also goes for sending your child to a traditional daycare or school while also trying to implement Montessori practices at home. A lot of parents are concerned that you cannot do both at the same time, and that is simply not true. You absolutely can still do Montessori at home because, again, your influence is going to be the most powerful. Next, we're going to talk about how to manage receiving gifts for your child that could potentially not be aligned with Montessori values. Now, the actual interaction of gift giving and how one is expected to respond in that situation can very much be culturally defined. So there's not really any one way to handle it. But what I can share with you is an approach that is taken by many Montessori families, my own included. Now, in this approach, the first and most important thing to remember is to always be grateful and thankful no matter what, because it is so important to model for your child how to show appreciation for someone who has gone out of their way to do something nice for them. So starting from the time that your child is an infant, when you're still speaking on their behalf because they're not verbal yet, it's important to begin modeling. Anytime your child receives a gift, you simply say thank you, you smile, give them a hug if it's appropriate for the situation, and then let that be that without any further judgment of the content of the gift. Now, for any potential gift givers that you are very comfortable with, and I would expect this to be a family member or a close friend, you might consider offering them a curated wish list. And this would be something that you have created ahead of time that has all of the little gifts and items that are aligned with Montessori values that you would be okay with your child receiving. This would also work for a person who approaches you directly asking for gift ideas for your child. So you can offer them a couple of the ideas off of the wish list that you already have if you don't want to give them the entire wish list to choose from. Or another avenue you can take is to narrow down the possibilities to only things that you know that you're okay with, like books or puzzles or clothing or experiences like tickets to the zoo. This way you have a lot less chance of ending up with something that you're not okay with. And the final scenario is the one in which you are not consulted ahead of time at all for gift ideas, or perhaps you're just not comfortable offering a wish list or guidance of any sort, and you end up with a gift for your child that is completely not aligned with Montessori values at all, like not even in the slightest. What do you do then? As before, you let it go. You graciously accept the gift, you say thank you, and then you figure out later what to do with it. Again, we always want to be modeling appreciation for our child, and we are not in the business of making someone else feel bad about doing something nice for your child. So what do you do with these non-Montessori gifts at that later time when it finally arrives? Well, you have a couple of different options. The first is if you received a gift receipt for the item, then that makes it really easy. You can simply go to the store and exchange the item for something that you would have picked for your child. If you are not able to exchange the item, then your next best bet is to store the item away somewhere that your child does not have access to it, and only bring it out for your child to play with occasionally. For example, when the person who gifted that item comes to visit. Or after having had some time to think, you might even decide that you want to resell or donate the item at a later time. So those are my tips for managing family, friends, and gifting in your Montessori home. If you have any tips or advice of your own, please be sure to share them with us in the comments down below. If you're interested in learning more about how to implement Montessori practices at home with your children, I do have a comprehensive e-course that walks you through it step by step, and I will leave a link in the description box down below to that if you are interested in learning more about it. And just in case you are new to my channel, I did want to let you know that this video is part of a much larger series called Montessori at Home, which is aimed at providing practical tips and advice for busy parents like you and I for implementing Montessori philosophies at home with your children. So if that sounds like something that you're interested in learning more about, then you might consider subscribing to my channel. This way you don't miss a new video, because I do upload a new one just like this one every single week. Thanks so much for watching today, and I'll see you next time.